This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. Someone, the name blacked out, is planning an accident in my car.
Something has come to light that no one ever saw coming. A note, written by Princess Diana herself, has been found in FBI files, hidden away for years. And what it says is truly shocking. For decades, people have wondered about her tragic death. There have been rumors, theories, and questions with no clear answers. But this note? It changes everything. It reveals fears she had, warnings she gave, things that now seem impossible to ignore. Why was it kept secret for so long? Who wanted it hidden? And most importantly, what does this mean for everything we thought we knew? What does the note say? Princess Diana's story has always been full of mystery, but this new discovery takes things to another level. A note, handwritten by Diana herself, has been found in secret FBI documents. But what exactly does it say? At first glance, the letter is shocking. It talks about her deep emotional struggles and hints at something even more unsettling. Some believe it is a suicide note. Others think it might be something else entirely. But before we jump to conclusions, we need to break it down carefully. Did Diana express suicidal thoughts? This is the biggest question. Did Princess Diana really want to take her own life? The note reportedly describes feelings of isolation, fear, and deep sadness. It talks about how she felt like she had no control over her own life. It even suggests that she was overwhelmed to the point where she didn't know how much longer she could keep going. But here's the twist. The wording of the note is not clear-cut. Some experts say it sounds like a cry for help rather than a final goodbye. It's the kind of letter someone writes when they feel trapped, not necessarily when they are ready to give up. Diana had spoken about feeling alone before. She had opened up about her struggles with depression, bulimia, and anxiety. She once said that she felt like a prisoner inside the royal family. So, was this note just another moment where she was expressing her pain? Or was it something more serious? This is where things get complicated. When and where was this note written? The timing of this letter is very important. If Diana wrote it during her divorce from Prince Charles, it would make sense why she was feeling so low. That was one of the hardest times in her life. She was dealing with constant media attention, betrayal, and public humiliation. Imagine this. One day, you're the most loved woman in the world, and the next, you're being pushed out of the royal family. That's exactly what happened to Diana. She had given everything to her marriage. But Charles had been in love with Camilla Parker Bowles the whole time. When the truth finally came out, Diana was devastated. She was also losing her title, her home, and even her sense of security. The royal family was cutting her off, and the press was making things worse. Could this note have been written in the middle of all that? Or was it written even later, when she had finally found love with Dodi Fayed? That changes everything. If she had written it while she was happy, then why would she be thinking about ending her life? The FBI hasn't revealed the exact date of the note yet, and that's what makes this so frustrating. The timeline could tell us whether Diana was truly suicidal, or if this was just a moment of overwhelming stress. Was the handwriting authentic? Now, here's where things get even more suspicious. How do we even know this note is real? Experts have analyzed the handwriting, and from the first look, it does seem to match Diana's usual style. But there are also some strange differences. Some letters don't look quite right. The spacing feels off in certain parts. Now, we have to ask, could someone have forged this letter? If the letter was truly written by Diana, then it is a painful reminder of her struggles. But if it was fake, who would want to create a fake suicide note? And more importantly, why? We have seen cases before where documents related to Diana have been altered. Remember the infamous BBC Panorama interview? It was later revealed that Diana was tricked into giving that interview through fake documents. If people were willing to lie to Diana back then, who's to say they wouldn't lie about this note now? Some theorists believe this letter conveniently appeared to change the way people see Diana's death. If people believe she was suicidal, it takes attention away from the theory that she was murdered. Could this be part of a larger cover-up? How does this compare to Diana's "they are planning my accident" letter? This is where things get really eerie. In 1995, Diana wrote another famous letter to her butler, Paul Burrell. In it, she said something shocking. "My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury." This letter became one of the biggest pieces of evidence for people who believe Diana was assassinated. She had predicted that something would happen to her in a car crash, 2 years before she actually died in a car crash. Now, let's compare the two notes. The 1995 letter clearly shows that Diana believed someone was out to get her. She wasn't suicidal. She was scared. She thought people were plotting against her. The newly found letter seems to suggest the opposite, that Diana was feeling hopeless and might have wanted to harm herself. Do you see how these two letters completely contradict each other? One letter says Diana was fighting for her life because people were targeting her. The other suggests she had given up and was thinking of ending things herself. Which one are we supposed to believe? If Diana had truly been planning to take her own life, then why would she have written that first letter warning about a staged accident? You don't write a note predicting your own murder if you actually plan to harm yourself later. This is why many people don't trust this newly found letter. Some believe it was planted to make Diana's death look less suspicious. After all, if people think she was already struggling, then her tragic end wouldn't seem so strange. It's a way of silencing the murder theories without actually proving anything. But if Diana did write both letters, then this is even more heartbreaking. It would mean she lived in a constant state of fear, sadness, and paranoia, believing that both the world and her own mind were working against her. So, what is the truth? That's the hardest part. We don't know yet. What we do know is that Diana's life was never simple. She was either the most loved woman in the world or the most hunted. She had moments of deep pain, but she also had moments of hope. If this letter is real, then it shows just how much she was struggling. But if it's fake, then someone is still trying to control her story, years after her death. One thing is certain, the mystery of Princess Diana is far from over. Was Diana being watched? First, we need to talk about something that not many people know. Princess Diana was being watched, and not just by the British government, but also by the US intelligence agencies. Now, you might be thinking, why would the FBI or the CIA care about Diana? She wasn't a politician. She wasn't a world leader. She wasn't involved in government affairs. She was a princess who spent her time helping charities and taking care of her 2 sons. But here's the thing, Diana was powerful. Not in a political way, but in a way that scared powerful people. She had the ability to change public opinion overnight. She could speak about a cause, and suddenly the whole world would care. She spoke about things that many people in power didn't want to be talked about. Things like landmines, AIDS awareness, and even corruption. There's one more thing. At the time of her death, Diana was dating Dodi Fayed, an Egyptian billionaire. There were rumors, big, loud rumors, that they were about to get married. Some even believed she was pregnant with his child. Now, let's be real. The British royal family did not like this relationship. Imagine the future King of England, Prince William, having a Muslim stepfather and possibly even a half-sibling who was part Arab. For the monarchy, which had a long history of keeping things traditional, this was a huge deal. So, Diana wasn't just a princess. She was someone who could change history. And that's why she was watched. The US government's secret involvement now, this is where things get even stranger. The FBI has never openly admitted to watching Diana, but the CIA? Well, they slipped up. In 1999, 2 years after her death, the CIA confirmed that they had over 1,000 pages of files on Diana. Yes, you heard that right, 1,000 pages. And guess what? They refused to release most of them. The official reason? National security. Wait, what? National security? Why would a British princess's personal life be a national security issue for the United States? That's the big mystery. Some believe that Diana's campaign against landmines put her on the radar of military groups. Others think that her relationship with Dodi Fayed was what made her a target. And some even go as far as saying that certain governments didn't want her around anymore. But here's where things get even creepier. Among the few documents that were released, there were reports that Diana believed she was being spied on. She had even told her friends that she felt her phone was tapped. And now, years later, we find out that the FBI had a note that she wrote? That's not a coincidence. How was this note discovered? Now let's get to the big part. How was this note even found? Well, it wasn't found in some old storage box. It wasn't lying in a pile of forgotten papers. It was hidden in classified files. The note was part of a batch of secret FBI documents that were only released because of a Freedom of Information Act request. This means that someone had to fight to get these documents unsealed. They weren't just randomly given to the public. For decades, nobody knew this note even existed. It was tucked away, buried in files that nobody had access to. Which makes you wonder, was this information intentionally kept from the public? And if so, why? Was this note suppressed? Now, here's where things get really weird. If this note was so important, why was it hidden for so long? There are only two possible reasons. One, it was just forgotten. It got buried in the middle of thousands of other classified documents, and nobody thought it was important enough to release. But let's be honest. Does that sound likely? This is Princess Diana we're talking about. Every little detail about her life has been analyzed and discussed for years. If there was a note like this, it would have been found much earlier. Which brings us to the second reason, and this one is more disturbing. The note was suppressed on purpose. Think about it. If this note had been released years ago, what would have happened? If it contained anything that supported the theory that Diana was being watched, manipulated, or even threatened, then suddenly, all the conspiracy theories wouldn't seem so crazy anymore. If it suggested that she was struggling mentally in a way that was never made public, then people would start questioning everything about the official story of her death. The bottom line is this: someone didn't want this note to come out, and now that it has, it raises more questions than it answers. So, what does this note really mean? Does it prove Diana was struggling so much that she wanted to take her own life? Or does it make the mystery of her death even deeper? Let's be honest. Since the day Princess Diana died, people have had their doubts. The official story says she was in a car accident while trying to escape the paparazzi. But for years, many believed that it wasn't an accident at all. People said she was murdered. Some believed the royal family was behind it. Others thought powerful forces wanted her gone. But now, with this note coming to light, things have taken an unexpected turn. If Diana really wrote a letter hinting at suicide, does that mean all those theories were wrong? Could it be that she was truly in emotional pain and no one listened? Or, and this is a big or, was this note planted? Was it written under pressure? Was someone trying to build a case even before she died? Does this note challenge the assassination theory? For years, Diana herself believed she was being watched. She once told her butler, Paul Burrell, that she feared for her life. She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That letter is real. It's been public knowledge for a long time. In it, she said that someone was planning to tamper with her car's brakes. Now, if someone was planning to harm her, why would she also write a note about suicide? These two things don't really match, do they? If this note is real, then some people will say, see? Maybe she wasn't murdered. Maybe she was just deeply sad, and the accident was truly an accident. But is it really that simple? The people who believe she was killed still have questions. They ask, if this note existed all along, why are we only hearing about it now? Why did the FBI have it? And why would a woman who was full of life, a woman who had just started a new relationship, suddenly write a note about ending it all? It just doesn't sit right. If Diana was truly in danger, it's possible that this note was a distraction, a way to make sure that if something happened to her, people wouldn't suspect foul play. And that makes you wonder, was this note really written by Diana? Or does this prove she was under psychological pressure? Let's consider something else. What if this note doesn't mean she planned to harm herself, but instead, it shows the emotional pain she was in? Diana had been through a lot. Her marriage to Prince Charles was a disaster. She felt alone in the royal family. She battled bulimia, depression, and an overwhelming amount of media pressure. Every single thing she did was watched. Every mistake was put on the front page of a newspaper. Every emotion was judged. Imagine being in that position. Imagine feeling like you have no escape. Now add to that the fact that Diana was speaking out. She had done that famous interview with the BBC where she said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." She was open about her struggles. She was trying to break free from the royal family's control. And we all know how dangerous it can be when powerful people don't want the truth to come out. Could it be that Diana was being pushed into a mental state where she felt completely helpless? Could she have written this note during one of her lowest moments, not because she actually wanted to end her life, but because she felt like she had no one to turn to? Or, and this is where it gets really dark, was someone making sure she felt that way? Was she being harassed or manipulated into despair? This is something we need to think about. We already know that Diana felt like she was being watched. She had told people that her phones were bugged. She felt like she was being followed. And here's the thing, she wasn't wrong. There have been reports that intelligence agencies were keeping tabs on her. MI6, the British intelligence service, was known to have files on Diana. The FBI had documents on her. The CIA had some records too. The big question is, why? Why were all these intelligence agencies watching a woman who was no longer even a part of the royal family? Some believe it was because of her relationship with Dodi Fayed. He was the son of a billionaire, a man with powerful international connections. There were rumors that Diana and Dodi were going to get married. Some even speculated that she was pregnant. Now, if that was true, it could have caused major problems for the royal family. Think about it. A future king's mother married to a man from a different religious and cultural background? It might not sound like a big deal now, but back then, to the people in power, it could have been. So, was Diana being pushed into a state of despair? Was she being watched so closely that she felt like she had nowhere to go? If someone wanted her out of the picture, could psychological pressure have been part of the plan? And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Did she actually write this note? Or was it written for her? Could this note have been written under duress? This is where things get even murkier. Let's say for a moment that Diana did write this note. But let's also consider that she may not have done it freely. Imagine a scenario where someone close to her convinced her to write it. Maybe they told her, "Write down how you're feeling. It'll help." Maybe they said, "If something happens, people should know you were struggling." But what if that person wasn't looking out for her? What if this note was meant to be used later? And here's something else. What if she didn't write it at all? Handwriting analysis can tell us a lot, but let's be real, forensics can be manipulated. If someone wanted a document that made Diana's death look like a result of her own struggles, it wouldn't be impossible to create one. That might sound extreme, but we've seen cover-ups before. Powerful people protect their own. If there was something bigger going on, a simple note could help rewrite the narrative. Which brings us to the next big player in this story. The role of the British monarchy and intelligence agencies. If Diana's note was written willingly, it shows her mental state. If it wasn't, it opens up an entirely different conversation. Either way, this note being in the FBI's possession means one thing. Princess Diana was under surveillance. The British monarchy has always denied involvement in Diana's death. They say the crash was a tragic accident. But if Diana really was being watched, we have to ask. Were they worried about what she might do next? Did they fear that she was going to expose something? Did they see her as a threat? MI6 has been accused of having a role in her death before. Some former intelligence officers have even claimed that Diana's car crash was no accident. If there was ever a moment to shift the blame away, wouldn't a suicide note be the perfect tool? This note doesn't just change the story, it raises 100 more questions. Was Diana being watched to keep her safe, or to keep her quiet? If she really wrote this note, was it a desperate cry for help? Or was she being pushed into thinking she had no other way out? And most importantly, if this note had never been revealed, would we have ever known about it at all? What do you think? Does this note change your opinion on what really happened to her? Or do you believe there's still something we're not being told? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll keep following the truth, no matter where it leads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Something big just happened, and now the whole world is talking. A life sentence was given, and King Charles's reaction was caught on camera. The way he looked, the way he moved, people can't stop watching. Some say he was shocked, others think he knew this was coming. But one thing is clear. This moment has taken over the internet. Everyone is trying to understand what his reaction really means. Was he upset? Was he expecting this? Or is there something more behind that look? Background of the case. This case has grabbed the world's attention like no other. A powerful figure, once considered untouchable, has been sentenced to life in prison. But who is this person? And what crime did they commit that led to such a harsh punishment? The person in question is no ordinary criminal. They were once highly respected, a well-known name in elite circles. However, shocking allegations turned their reputation upside down. The trial was long and dramatic, filled with shocking testimonies, undeniable evidence, and intense courtroom moments. People watched as the case unfolded, revealing secrets that had been buried for years. The charges were serious. The convicted individual was accused of committing crimes that shook the public to its core. Investigators spent months collecting evidence, and when it was finally presented in court, there was no escaping the truth. The evidence included phone records, eyewitness statements, and even video footage that left no doubt about their guilt. The judge had no choice but to hand down the harshest punishment: life in prison. The media played a huge role in this case. News channels covered every single detail, analyzing every move made in court. Social media exploded with discussions, theories, and debates. Some people believed justice was served, while others thought the punishment was too severe. Protests broke out, and people gathered outside the courtroom, waiting for the final verdict. The moment the judge announced the life sentence, the internet went wild. But nothing prepared people for what happened next: King Charles's reaction. King Charles's connection to the case. The biggest question on everyone's mind is, why is King Charles reacting to this? What does this case have to do with him? Why does his response matter so much? Well, the answer lies in the deep and complex ties between the royal family and the convicted individual. There are rumors that the person sentenced to life had close connections to the British monarchy. Some reports even suggest that they had attended private royal events and had personal meetings with key members of the royal family. King Charles has always been careful about his public image. He knows that every word, every expression, and every reaction is watched closely by the public. So, when news broke about this life sentence, people naturally turned their eyes toward him. Would he ignore it? Would he comment? Would he defend or distance himself? The world waited for his response, and when it finally came, it took everyone by surprise. The exact reaction of King Charles. The moment King Charles heard about the life sentence, he was in the middle of an important royal event. Cameras were rolling, reporters were present, and all eyes were on him. As the news reached him, people noticed a sudden shift in his expression. His usual calm and composed demeanor changed for a brief moment. He looked tense, almost as if he had been caught off guard. Video clips of his reactions started circulating online within minutes. Some showed him looking down, avoiding eye contact with reporters. Others captured a brief moment of unease as he adjusted his posture. Experts began analyzing his body language, with some claiming that he looked visibly shaken, while others believed he was simply trying to remain neutral. But it wasn't just his facial expression that got people talking. Shortly after the news broke, an official statement was released by Buckingham Palace. The statement was short, carefully worded, and left room for interpretation. It neither condemned nor defended the convicted person, but instead focused on distancing the royal family from the controversy. However, some royal insiders claim that behind closed doors, there was a lot more going on. Sources suggest that King Charles had private discussions with his advisors about how to handle the situation. Some believe he was deeply troubled by the news, while others think he was frustrated that the royal family's name was once again being dragged into a major scandal. Meanwhile, other members of the royal family also had to deal with the situation. Prince William, known for his measured responses, chose to remain silent. Princess Kate, who rarely speaks on legal matters, was seen avoiding reporters. And then there was Prince Harry, though no official statement came from him. Some believe his past comments about royal scandals might suggest how he feels about the case. social media, and public response. As soon as King Charles's reaction went public, the internet exploded. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram were flooded with posts about his expression, his body language, and the statement from Buckingham Palace. People had strong opinions, and they weren't afraid to share them. Some users were quick to call him out. They believed his reaction showed that he was more affected by the case than he wanted to admit. Guilt written all over his face, one Twitter user wrote. Others defended him, saying he was just caught off guard and that people were reading too much into it. He's the king, not a reality TV star. Leave him alone, another user commented. Memes also took over the internet. Some showed edited clips of King Charles looking shocked with dramatic music in the background. Others compared his reaction to famous movie scenes. The hashtag #King Charles reaction started trending worldwide, with thousands of tweets pouring in every second. Even celebrities and politicians jumped into the conversation. Some supported King Charles, saying that it was unfair to put him under scrutiny for something he had no control over. Others, however, used this moment to question the royal family's past connections. Political and legal implications. King Charles' reaction may seem like just another viral moment, but it has bigger consequences. When a monarch reacts to a high-profile case, it can influence public opinion. Some people now wonder if this case will change how the royal family is viewed. Could this scandal affect King Charles's popularity? Will it lead to new discussions about the monarchy's role in modern society? Legally, the case itself is closed, but the debates surrounding it are far from over. If more information comes out about the convicted individual's past connections to the royal family, it could lead to new investigations, new headlines, and even more controversy. For now, King Charles has tried to move forward, but the internet doesn't forget. His reaction is still being discussed, analyzed, and shared worldwide. Whether he likes it or not, this moment has become part of history. So, what do you think? Was King Charles truly shocked by the life sentence? Or was there more to his reaction than meets the eye? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this developing story.
And I have been so deeply moved and humbled by their truly remarkable courage and by their selfless capacity for forgiveness, despite all that they have suffered.
King Charles can finally share what happened is sure to make jaws drop. For decades, rumors and whispers surrounded the real story behind Charles and Diana's marriage, leaving fans with burning questions. Now, after years of regret and hidden truth, Charles is ready to spill the details that could change everything we thought we knew. From unexpected revelations to shocking confessions, nothing remains off limits in this tell-all.
And I also wanted to say how particularly moved and enormously comforted my children and I were, and indeed still are, by the public response to Diana's death.
Are you ready to hear the scandal that could rewrite entire royal history? Early spotlight on King Charles. From the moment he was born on November 14, 1948, King Charles lived in the public eye like few others. Being the first child of Queen Elizabeth II placed him in line for the British throne at just a few years old. As soon as his mother succeeded to the throne in 1952, Charles's every move became news. Journalists and photographers followed him constantly, capturing everything from his first steps to his school outings. This early attention brought both excitement and hardship. On one hand, Charles enjoyed privileges such as living in grand palaces and traveling around the world with his parents. On the other hand, the weight of future responsibility cast a long shadow. He could not simply play outside without a chaperone, or make casual friends without those friendships ending up in the papers. Knowing that he would eventually become king brought an expectation of perfect behavior and never-ending etiquette lessons. As a child, Charles took part in public events that most people never experience. He had to attend formal ceremonies, greet dignitaries, and smile for countless photographs. His parents were often busy with their own duties, so he sometimes felt distant from them. This early exposure to royal life taught him that leadership is more than just ribbon cutting and waving. It involves representing an entire nation and keeping up an image of respect and tradition. Yet Charles remained a curious young boy, eager to learn. He loved the outdoors, playing sports and exploring nature whenever possible. Despite all the ceremony around him, he tried to embrace any normal childhood moment he could find. This dual existence, being both a young heir and a child wanting freedom, shaped his perspective on duty and personal happiness. Over the years, the world watched him grow, picking apart every detail of his upbringing, from his choice of school to his friendships. While the spotlight was harsh, it also formed him into the resolute individual he would become. He learned to handle media pressure, stand by his values, and balance tradition with personal growth. Those early years in the public eye laid the groundwork for his eventual role as Britain's monarch. Challenging childhood. Although King Charles was born into privilege, his childhood was far from easy. In public, he seemed to have it all: a royal title, a future throne, and enrollment in prestigious schools. But behind the castle walls, he faced emotional hurdles that shaped who he is today. He often spoke of feeling somewhat isolated, since his parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, had demanding schedules and many official duties. As a result, they were often away, leaving young Charles under the care of nannies and tutors. He once admitted that his parents could be both physically and emotionally distant. Growing up under such circumstances, he struggled to find genuine warmth and affection. Many times his reserved nature was misunderstood as aloofness, but it stemmed from a lack of open, playful interaction within his family. Like any sensitive child, he longed for approval and closeness. Additionally, constant media attention made it hard for him to form normal friendships. Classmates sometimes teased him, either because of his royal status or his gentle nature. While many assumed being a prince meant an easy life, it actually invited extra scrutiny. Every quirk or emotion he showed sparked feedback from both peers and the wider public. This pressure taught him to shield his feelings, shaping the more guarded side of his personality that people would later observe. However, these hardships also contributed to his ability to empathize with others, since he knew how it felt to be lonely and misunderstood. Charles developed a softer side. In time, he became known for his desire to protect the environment and uplift charitable causes. There is a belief that his early emotional battles gave him a strong sense of compassion for the struggles of everyday people. Overcoming a challenging childhood was no small feat. Charles had to navigate formal expectations, media glare, and his own yearning for unconditional love. These factors fueled both his insecurities and his determination to do well by his future subjects. In many ways, his youthful trials served as stepping stones toward a more empathetic approach to leadership, highlighting how even a prince can grow through adversity. Gordonstoun School experience. Gordonstoun School became a defining chapter of King Charles's youth. Founded by German educator Kurt Hahn, the school was known for its strict discipline, outdoor challenges, and emphasis on self-reliance. Prince Philip, Charles's father, believed that Gordonstoun would make his son tougher, more independent, and ready for the demands of royal life. Though the school was among the most respected in the United Kingdom, it was also notorious for its rigorous routines. For young Charles, the transition was tough. He was a sensitive boy, more inclined toward quiet reflection than braving cold mornings and adventure drills. At Gordonstoun, students were expected to wake up early to take cold showers, keep their dormitories spotless, and participate in various sports. The school highlighted character growth through hardship, a principle that clashed with Charles's gentle manner. He found the days exhausting and sometimes felt overwhelmed by the physical demands and the teasing he faced from classmates. Still, he would later admit that his time at Gordonstoun shaped his resilience and helped him discover inner strengths. He learned how to handle criticism, adapt to unfamiliar settings, and rely on himself in challenging situations. In a 1975 interview, he reflected that the school taught him much about his own abilities, hinting that the difficulties sparked personal growth. He also said that his father's insistence on sending him there, though harsh at times, forced him to confront the real world in ways a pampered prince rarely would. Beyond discipline, Gordonstoun offered Charles opportunities in leadership. The school believed in giving senior students responsibility to oversee younger ones, which helped Charles practice guiding and supporting peers. He also found moments to appreciate nature, exploring the rugged landscape surrounding the campus. That closeness with nature might have nurtured his lifelong advocacy for environmental causes. Despite the strictness, he later expressed gratitude for his Gordonstown experience. While he often joked that his father's choice of school was a harsh move for someone so sensitive, he ultimately acknowledged its benefits. By enduring trials of physical endurance, structure, and teamwork, Charles discovered personal qualities that would serve him well as he prepared for the responsibilities of a future king. University education king. Charles's choice to attend university was a defining moment that broke royal tradition and sparked debate within the British royal family. Typically, heirs to the throne were expected to enter military service straight after their formal schooling. However, Charles had other plans. After completing his A-levels at Gordonstown, he announced his intent to pursue a degree at the University of Cambridge. Many in the royal circle were uneasy about this decision, fearing it might reflect poorly on him as a future monarch. Critics claimed it showed a lack of discipline and a desire to dodge the rigors of military life. Yet Charles stood firm, determined to prove that scholarship and service could go hand in hand. Despite the stir it caused, his time at Cambridge became an invaluable experience. He studied anthropology, archaeology, and history, eventually earning a second-class lower Bachelor of Arts, an achievement that made him the first British heir apparent to receive a university degree. During his studies, the media kept a close watch on his every move. Reports of Charles strolling through campus with classmates or attending social events always made headlines, reflecting a public keenly curious about how he would balance academic pursuits with his royal obligations. For Charles, this period was about more than attending lectures and writing essays. It allowed him a taste of relative independence, a chance to mingle with fellow students and immerse himself in intellectual debate. He engaged in discussions ranging from historical events to global challenges, broadening his cultural awareness. This exposure seemed to strengthen his worldview and shape his future philanthropic interests. In particular, experiencing life beyond palace walls helped him understand ordinary people's struggles, an understanding that would later influence his passion for charitable causes. Still, not everyone was so accepting of his academic adventure. Some family members felt that time spent away from official duties hindered his readiness for the crown. Yet, Charles's resolve only grew stronger in the face of doubt. Even as tension brewed within the royal household, he persisted, focusing on exams and forming friendships that would last for years. Military career. After earning his university degree, King Charles turned his attention to the military, a path many had expected him to follow from the start. Criticism had built up when he initially postponed his service, with voices suggesting he feared the harsh environment. Yet Charles was determined to prove otherwise. Early in his second year at Cambridge, he requested Royal Air Force training, surprising both the public and members of his family. This move signaled his readiness to take on physically and mentally demanding challenges. Charles began his preparatory instruction by studying a range of technical subjects, including aerodynamics, navigation, and aviation medicine. According to Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Johns, who oversaw parts of Charles's training, the young man displayed remarkable concentration and a fierce determination to excel. While critics still questioned whether a sensitive prince could handle strict discipline, Charles's instructors saw a different side, a focused student who refused to fail. His military journey didn't end with the RAF. Charles soon embarked on a career in the Royal Navy, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. He took an accelerated course at Britannia Royal Naval College, quickly adjusting to life on ships, destroyers, and frigates. Over time, he served as a gunnery officer on the HMS Minerva and took on responsibilities that tested both his leadership and technical skills. His active involvement in real operations, such as monitoring a Soviet submarine, showcased his calm under pressure and willingness to adapt to life at sea. One highlight of Charles's service was his development as a pilot. He spent countless hours in the cockpit, perfecting maneuvers and formation flying. His dedication paid off when he earned the Double Diamond Trophy, marking him as one of the top pilots in his class. Eventually, Charles advanced to commanding officer of the minesweeper HMS Brownington, where he led a small crew through routine exercises and real missions involving leftover World War II ordnance. By December 1976, he concluded his active military career with the rank of commander. Though some once doubted his ability to withstand rigorous training, he left with a record that spoke volumes about his commitment and skill. In many ways, his time in uniform demonstrated that a future monarch could balance tradition with personal ambition, all while earning the respect of both royal and military circles. It was one more stepping stone on a journey that would soon lead him to a deeply complex chapter of life. Meeting Princess Diana. Meeting Princess Diana. The story of King Charles meeting Princess Diana often leads to mention of a shooting party hosted by Diana's older sister, Sarah. But according to Charles himself, their very first meeting happened in a less glamorous setting, a freshly plowed field. In that moment, Diana was a shy 16-year-old, while Charles was in his late 20s, dating Sarah. Despite the age gap and the prince's existing relationship, Diana captured Charles's attention. He was charmed by her youthful spirit and unique warmth, but with his eyes fixed on Sarah at the time, he barely acted on those feelings. Not long after, Charles joined Sarah for a ski trip, and their blossoming relationship was widely documented by the media, who celebrated them as a potential match. Behind the scenes, though, something else was happening. During a gathering at Sarah's invitation, Charles and Diana ended up talking in private. She led him on a brief tour of her home's gallery, and he found her kindness and energy irresistible, even if he couldn't publicly show it. Meanwhile, Diana was flattered by the prince's genuine interest. Yet the situation was far from simple. Sarah was still very much in the picture. In a surprising twist, Sarah herself ended up ending the relationship with Charles. She gave a frank interview to a magazine, boldly stating she was not in love with him, nor had any intention of marrying into the royal family. The public was stunned, considering how they had seemed happy together during their ski outings. Within months, Sarah married someone else, causing the media to pivot and focus on the evolving connection between Charles and Diana. With Sarah now out of the equation, Charles felt freer to pursue the younger sister who had captivated him from that first encounter. Still, there were unavoidable concerns about their 12-year age difference and Diana's limited experience with the public eye. Undeterred, they began seeing more of each other. The royal family, always conscious of appearances, kept a close watch on their dates, intrigued by the possibility that Diana might be a suitable bride for the future king. Marriage to Diana. The marriage of King Charles and Princess Diana was hailed as the event of the century, a dazzling ceremony watched by hundreds of millions worldwide. From the outside, it looked like the ultimate fairy tale. Royal pomp, horse-drawn carriages, and a stunning bride adored by onlookers everywhere she went. Yet beneath the grand displays of love and pageantry, trouble brewed. Diana, who was only 20 when she wed the future king, soon found that royal life was far more complex than she had imagined. One early warning sign came during their engagement interview. When asked if they were in love, Diana confidently said yes, but Charles replied, "Whatever in love means." His awkward response drew public concern, and privately, Diana admitted that it hurt. Troubles mounted further during their engagement when she discovered Charles had purchased a gift for his ex-girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles. Though Diana considered calling off the wedding, she pressed on, buoyed by her sister's support, but harboring deep fears about Charles's loyalty. Their wedding day remained a spectacle of joy, at least to the millions watching on television. Behind the scenes, however, cracks formed in the marriage almost immediately. Diana struggled with the relentless scrutiny of the press and the expectations placed on her as a royal wife. Charles, meanwhile, did little to hide his lingering attachment to Camilla, fueling Diana's worries and later her heartbreak. Over time, the emotional strain took a visible toll. Diana spoke openly about her feelings of inadequacy, and Charles, unsure how to handle her distress, seemed to drift further away. Eventually, the rumors of Charles's ongoing affair became impossible to ignore. Diana confronted Camilla directly, pleading for her to leave Charles alone. When that failed, the tension boiled over, leaving Diana feeling more isolated than ever. The media, hungry for drama, devoured every hint of conflict. The final blow arrived when intimate phone conversations between Charles and Camilla leaked to the press, exposing the true extent of their relationship. Faced with a scandal that rocked the monarchy, Charles publicly admitted the affair. A deeply wounded Diana, in turn, shared her side in televised interviews, famously remarking that, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." In 1992, they formally separated, finalizing their divorce in 1996. What began as a fairy tale had become a cautionary story of love, betrayal, and public intrusion, forever shaping how the world viewed the House of Windsor and the couple at its center: infidelity and marital troubles. The marriage of King Charles and Princess Diana was once the world's favorite fairy tale, but underlying tensions and hidden affections soon cast a shadow over their union. Early on, Diana sensed Charles's lingering fondness for his former flame, Camilla Parker Bowles. Although Diana hoped that marriage and motherhood would draw Charles closer, those dreams gradually faded as Camilla remained in the picture. Hurt and confused, Diana confronted Charles about the gift he had bought Camilla shortly before their wedding, an omen that her new life might not be a peaceful one. Taking on royal duties brought more public attention, leaving little room for private resolutions. Diana tried to hold her marriage together despite feeling increasingly overshadowed by Camilla's presence. Pleas and direct confrontations proved fruitless. Charles, meanwhile, seemed torn between his sense of duty to Diana and his emotional history with Camilla. Eventually, their marital strains spilled over into media reports, fueling endless tabloid gossip. Every time Diana appeared at a public event looking downcast or teary-eyed, the press speculated about Charles's behavior and the cracks in their relationship. The unsustainable tension came to a head when intimate phone conversations between Charles and Camilla leaked, confirming beyond doubt that the prince had continued his affair. The tapes featured candid exchanges, revealing the depth of their emotional bond. As these calls became front-page news, any hope of salvaging the royal marriage dimmed. In a bid to manage the crisis, Charles sat down for a televised interview where he finally admitted to cheating on Diana. This public confession shattered the prince's carefully managed image of respectability and left Diana feeling betrayed on a global stage. Although the divorce was still months away, the emotional damage was done. Diana's heartbreak and Charles's public mea culpa generated an unending storm of media scrutiny. Many who had idolized Charles for his dedication to royal duty now questioned his character. Some sympathized with Diana, seeing her as a young woman thrust into an unforgiving spotlight and betrayed by her husband's continued closeness to Camilla. Others blamed both sides, arguing that royal life created pressures no marriage could endure. By the time legal separation became official, the couple's relationship had devolved into a series of painful headlines and regretful revelations. What started as a storybook wedding in front of nearly 1 billion onlookers turned into a cautionary tale of unresolved past relationships, public obsession, and the heavy toll of infidelity on even the most glamorous unions. Diana's struggles and legacy. When Diana entered the royal family, many saw her as the embodiment of a real-life Cinderella. A shy young nursery school assistant swept up in a dazzling romance with the future king. Yet almost from the start, she struggled beneath the intense spotlight and the rigid protocols of royal life. Her natural warmth often clashed with the formal reserve expected of a princess, and every misstep drew tabloid headlines. Over time, these pressures took a serious emotional toll, leaving her feeling isolated and unsure of whom to trust. Beyond her marital woes, Diana battled personal insecurities. She spoke candidly about her struggle with bulimia, which she traced directly to the emotional pain and self-doubt she experienced in her relationship with Charles. Whenever she felt anxious about an upcoming event or a perceived rejection, the pressure became unbearable. Her willingness to open up about bulimia shattered royal norms, exposing a frank vulnerability that endeared her to millions who recognized their own battles in her story. Despite these struggles, Diana found her own voice and sense of purpose through humanitarian work. Early on, she displayed a gift for connecting with people from all walks of life. Children facing critical illness, victims of poverty, and those living with HIV/AIDS all found a compassionate ally in Diana, who wasn't afraid to kneel down, embrace them, and show a human touch that broke centuries of royal formality. This empathy became a hallmark of her public persona, earning her the nickname, the People's Princess. Even as her marriage unraveled, Diana's global reputation soared, buoyed by her devotion to charitable causes. She visited hospitals, comforted the sick, and championed controversial topics like landmine clearance. Though her personal life remained fraught with heartbreak, Diana's work on behalf of the marginalized offered a sense of meaning. In telling the world about her own pain, she helped to break stigmas surrounding mental health while using her platform to shine a spotlight on overlooked communities. By the time she and Charles divorced, Diana's place in history had already been secured. Her tragic death in 1997 only cemented her status as a beloved icon whose struggles made her relatable and whose compassion inspired countless others. Today, her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, carry her legacy forward with their own charitable projects and public engagements. Through them and the countless lives she touched, Diana's spirit endures, reminding the world of the power in empathy, vulnerability, and the courage to speak one's truth.